In 1869, amid the turbulence of post-industrial revolution Europe, Napoleon III was not searching for a brilliant chef. He was looking for a logistical solution. The army and the working class needed a cheaper source of fat than butter, which at the time symbolized pasture land, livestock, and abundance. Margarine was not born in a kitchen. It was born from economic strategy. And from that moment on, a quiet battle between nature and industry began. A battle that has lasted for more than 150 years. The competition launched by Napoleon III reflected the mindset of the 19th century. If humans understood the structure of matter deeply enough, they could recreate anything. Chemist Hippolyte Mege won with a product called oleomargarine, a fat extracted from beef tallow, processed and emulsified to mimic butter. Chemically, butter is a collection of triglycerides, 3 fatty acids bound to a glycerol molecule. Its structure determines its physical properties. Early margarine was simply an attempt to imitate that structure using cheaper ingredients. What mattered most was not the formula, but the philosophy behind it. This was an era when factories began replacing fields. Coal replaced firewood, steel replaced wood, and now, chemistry replaced dairy cows. Margarine represented a belief that nature was merely an unfinished version. If costs could be lowered and production increased, imitation seemed entirely rational. But when a laboratory-born product enters the marketplace, it does not compete on price alone. It competes on trust. By the late 19th century, margarine had spread across the United States and Europe. The dairy industry quickly recognized the threat. The battle moved from laboratories into legislatures. In many U.S. states, margarine was banned from being dyed yellow. Laws required it to remain its natural white color, making it resemble animal fat rather than premium butter. Consumers had to purchase separate coloring capsules and mix them in themselves if they wanted the product to look like butter. Here lies an intriguing insight. Color has nothing to do with nutrition, yet it shapes perception. Yellow evoked milk, pasture land, and tradition. Pale white suggested raw industry. Margarine was not merely seen as a substitute. It was seen as an imposter. Yet that resistance drove innovation. As beef fat became more expensive, manufacturers turned to vegetable oils. Plant oils were cheaper and easier to mass produce. However, they remained liquid at room temperature. To play the role of butter, they needed transformation. And so, a new chapter in food science began. In the early 20th century, hydrogenation technology emerged. By adding hydrogen to the double bonds of unsaturated fatty acids, molecular chains became straighter and packed more tightly, forming semi-solid fats. Margarine now resembled butter, not only in appearance but also in texture. By the 1970s and 1980s, a wave of research linked saturated fats to cardiovascular disease. Margarine derived from plants was quickly repositioned as a heart-friendly option. Packaging highlighted added vitamins, and advertising emphasized low cholesterol. Science stepped out of the laboratory and into marketing campaigns. But scientific knowledge evolves over time. Later studies revealed that trans fats, a byproduct of hydrogenation, could raise LDL cholesterol and increase the risk of heart disease. Biologically, the trans configuration gives molecules a geometry different from the natural cis form, altering how cell membranes function. A molecule straightened for industrial purposes produced unintended physiological consequences. As evidence accumulated, many countries began restricting or banning trans fats. Margarine had to reinvent itself once again. By the late 20th century, margarine was no longer seen as a savior. It became a classic example of technology advancing faster than biological understanding. Yet calling it a deceiver may be unfair. Margarine reflects the values of each era. The 19th century prioritized cost and logistics. The 20th century emphasized industrialization and standardization. The 1970s favored the slogan, "low saturated fat," and the 21st century values transparency and biological safety. What changed was not just the formula. What changed was how society understood the relationship between economics and the human body. The history of margarine shows that whenever we optimize one variable cost, shelf life, or cholesterol numbers, we may unintentionally neglect another. Economic efficiency often runs ahead of biological understanding. Only when consequences emerge do we step back and adjust. The war between butter and margarine is not merely a battle between two fats. It is a clash between two ways of thinking. One side believes in tradition, natural food chains, and long evolutionary processes. The other believes in humanity's power to simulate and improve. Margarine did not fool the world intentionally. It was born from real needs and promoted in the spirit of its time. But its story reminds us that when science becomes an economic tool, oversimplification can lead to misunderstanding. Today, butter and margarine sit side by side on supermarket shelves. The fierce legal battles of the past have faded, but the ideological conflict remains. We are not just choosing a type of fat. We are choosing between trust in nature or trust in industry. And that 150-year history reminds us before believing a product is better. Ask yourself, better for what? And for how long?